The audience was already on edge. They knew that this was going to be a heated interview, but no one could have predicted what was about to unfold. A seasoned liberal talk show host, known for throwing tough questions at his guests, was about to face his match. Sitting across from him was none other than Melania Trump, the former First Lady of the United States, an icon of grace, elegance, and unwavering composure. But what made this interview particularly intriguing was the fact that Melania had long been known for her quiet, reserved nature. She rarely ever spoke out, especially when it came to her marriage or personal life. The camera zoomed in on the host's face, a glint of excitement in his eyes as he prepared to ask the question that was going to rattle the former First Lady. He had been waiting for this moment all night, and it was clear he was ready to take his shot. His posture straightened, his shoulders squared as he leaned slightly forward in his chair, the intensity of the moment palpable. The lights in the studio seemed to brighten, the air thick with anticipation. The audience, already on edge, waited for the storm to hit, unaware of the calm that was about to follow. "So, Melania," he began, his voice dripping with curiosity, his tone sharp and probing. "There are whispers a lot of people are asking. Do you regret marrying Donald Trump?" The question hung in the air, suspended in time. For a fleeting second, everything seemed to freeze. It was as if the entire studio had collectively held its breath, waiting for Melania's response. The host's eyes never left hers, searching for a crack in her armor. The audience, unsure of how she would react, braced for an emotional outburst, a hesitant pause, or perhaps a defensive but eloquent response. The host was confident this was the moment he could corner her, draw out a vulnerable admission about her personal life, anything that would put her on the back foot, and perhaps make her show some weakness. But what happened next left everyone stunned. Melania didn't flinch. She didn't even blink. With the poise of a seasoned diplomat, she remained perfectly still, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Her expression was calm, controlled, a serene mask that held no trace of uncertainty. She leaned slightly forward, her eyes locked onto the host's with unwavering focus. It was almost as if she could see through him, dissecting the true intent behind the question. And then, in the calmest voice imaginable, she replied, "I don't regret anything in my life, especially not the choices I've made with the people I love. My marriage is none of your business." The words hit like a sharp blade cutting through the tension. The audience gasped, a mixture of shock and admiration rippling through the room. The host looked momentarily stunned, his lips slightly parted, caught off guard by the sheer directness of her answer. He hadn't expected such a bold, unapologetic response, let alone from someone who had built a reputation for being so private, so reserved. The sharpness of Melania's reply was subtle, but it cut deeper than any sharp retort. It wasn't just a deflection, it was a declaration of confidence and control. Melania didn't flinch. She didn't even blink. With the poise of a seasoned diplomat, she leaned slightly forward, her eyes never leaving the host's face, and in the calmest voice imaginable, she replied, "I don't regret anything in my life, especially not the choices I've made with the people I love. My marriage is none of your business." The audience gasped. The host looked momentarily stunned, his lips slightly parted. He hadn't expected such a direct answer. The sharpness of Melania's response was subtle, but it cut deeper than any sharp retort. It was a statement not only of defiance, but of self-assurance. But the host wasn't done. He leaned in, clearly trying to take control of the conversation again. "Well, I think people are curious about your role, especially during your time in the White House. You seemed somewhat distant, almost like you were in the background. Do you feel like you supported your husband's policies? Or did you ever try to sway him in another direction?" Melania's response was swift and composed. "I've always supported my husband because I know who he is. I don't need to justify his policies to anyone, nor do I need to explain my role to the world. I believe in him, and that's all that matters." As the conversation moved on, it became clearer that the host was attempting to provoke a reaction, perhaps to draw out an emotional response, or to catch Melania in a vulnerable moment. But Melania, with her sharp yet poised answers, remained unfazed. Each time the host tried to corner her, she effortlessly turned the tables, her calm demeanor leaving no room for the liberal host's provocative questions to gain traction. The studio audience was in awe. What had started as an attempt to put Melania on the defensive was quickly turning into a masterclass in confidence and composure. The host, meanwhile, began to look visibly uncomfortable. His questions, once framed with the intent to provoke, now felt like an uphill battle against Melania's quiet strength. At one point, the host attempted one last, bold question, one that he hoped would push Melania into the spotlight of controversy. People say Donald Trump is a divisive figure, and there's no shortage of criticism about his policies. How do you feel knowing that your husband has been such a polarizing figure in America? Melania's answer, this time, was delivered with such calm authority that even the audience seemed to pause for a moment before applauding. I don't feel the need to apologize for my husband's success. He was elected by millions of Americans who believed in his vision. And to those who criticize, I say, don't you think it's time to listen to both sides, rather than just tear down what you don't understand? The host sat back in his chair, momentarily speechless. The audience burst into applause, their admiration for Melania's ability to handle the pressure palpable. And then came the moment no one expected. The host, realizing that he had lost control of the interview, tried to regain his footing with one last question, one that was designed to make Melania flinch. Do you think your husband will ever change? Or do you believe in his brand of politics? Melania smiled slightly, a hint of mischief in her eyes. Change is inevitable, but I don't need him to change. He's exactly who he needs to be, whether you agree with him or not. And for me, that's enough. With that, she stood up gracefully, signaling the end of the interview. The host was left trying to salvage the moment, but it was clear Melania Trump had not only held her ground, but had turned the entire exchange into an unforgettable display of self-assurance. As the camera cut away, the studio audience was still buzzing. Social media exploded, and clips of the interview quickly went viral. People couldn't stop talking about how Melania had handled herself with such grace under pressure, leaving even the most seasoned liberal host stammering for words. But what made this moment truly unforgettable was the lesson that Melania had unwittingly delivered. She had shown the world that strength doesn't always come in the form of loud defiance. Sometimes it's the quiet power of composure, confidence, and an unshakable belief in oneself that leaves the biggest impact. As the credits rolled, viewers were left in awe. In a world full of noise and drama, Melania Trump had reminded everyone of the power of silence, grace, and unyielding strength. And for the host, well, this interview would be one he would never forget. If you love Melania's response and feel like she truly deserves to be the First Lady, click on the subscribe button and comment Best First Lady in the comment section. See you on the next one.